Well, good morning to everybody.
Good morning.
We are ready to go for the next session. And I will have a difficult time when I go back to Paraguay to explain one thing to my people in that country. When I have a refrigerator with two doors. On the right side is a refrigerator, on the left side is a freezer. And I will have a difficult time to tell them that the temperature outside of this hotel is lower than the temperature I have inside that freezer. Anyhow, it's a great pleasure for me to be here today and talk to you about this theme, no-tillage effects on soil quality and ecosystem. And it goes in line with the theme of this workshop, that is soil health in the year 2012. And I'm very glad that you also chose this other motto for the conference. It's not just dirt anymore. I agree with you very much on this point, and we have to to stop calling our soil dirt. That's a very important thing we have to do, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. So let's go to my first slide. I'm going to show you here the content of my presentation. I'll talk about the effect of no-tillage on chemical, physical, and biological soil properties. And this is going to be part one of my presentation. And in the afternoon, I will talk about the effects of no-tillage on other factors, crop sanitary aspects, environmental aspects, economics, etc. I also will touch the theme long-term and quality no-tillage, because I see that here in the United States a lot of people like to do rotational tillage, which we do not find very exciting in South America. And I will end up my presentation with some final remarks and conclusions. Some of you that have worked with USDA long enough know this brochure. Conservation tillage, things to consider. It was published in 1985 by USDA. It's the Bulletin 461. And interestingly, in this bulletin, it's a provision or a calculation of the planted cropland where conservation is or will be used once in the year 1985 when this was made, and then in the year 2010. And they thought that by the year 2010, the United States would be 55% under no-tillage. And the rest would be conservation tillage. That means more than 30% crop residues per seed. And what is the truth of this? What happened? No-tillage is only practiced on 24% of cropland in the year 2008, when I got the last data on this. Conservation tillage was practiced on 42% of the area, and reduced tillage and conventional tillage on 22 and 34% respectively. That means that tillage practices still are practiced on 56% of all agricultural land in the year 2008, according to CTIC, Conservation Technology Information Center. What's the reality of South America? In South America, we have about 75% of no-tillage, although we started 10 years later with no-tillage. We have 75% of all agricultural land in no-tillage, and we don't have any reduced tillage, or because we don't practice, well, a little bit perhaps, but we don't play too much with conservation tillage. As a matter of fact, with Dr. Donna Rakowski, we are trying to fight that no-tillage is taking out of this conservation tillage terminology and is used as a separate issue because no-tillage has nothing to do with conservation tillage. Conservation tillage is actually an oxymoron because we cannot conserve the soil as long as we are doing tillage. And what are the reasons why these numbers do not go up in no-tillage here and other parts of the world? We still have obsolete objectives of tillage being discussed in the literature, and here we have the literature by Joseph Berger in a 315-page book in a renowned institute in Geneva, and I will discuss with you the red text, and we will see that the yellow text, in my opinion, are okay, but look at this. The objective of tillage, to obtain a seed, a deep and good seed bed. What do we need a good seed, a deep seed bed for? We can do it with no-tillage, just going in a slot state, putting the seed, and it works. To add more humus in the soil and fertility by covering vegetation and manure. We cannot add organic matter to the soil by tillage. It's going to be reduced by tillage. So how can this be an objective of tillage? Point number 5, to leave the soil in such a condition as to retain moisture from rain. What a crazy objective. It's exactly the opposite. I mean, we are wasting moisture with tillage. Point number 8, to leave the surface in a condition to prevent erosion. What a crazy thing. Can we conserve the soil by doing tillage? We cannot, especially if we are on sloping land and we have heavy rainfalls. So this old literature that's around, and even in this publication, they talk about that the chisel plow can reduce erosion by 75%. And I can tell you one thing, in my experience, you can reduce a little bit the erosion in terms of compared to conventional tillage, but you cannot reduce it to 75% with a chisel plow. So we have to change this and get with the new literature into the libraries and teach the young scientists and the young people what it is all about. And then we have this. Scientists in the United States have determined that soil loss erosion up to 5 tons per acre per year is acceptable when practicing agriculture. How can we accept a truckload of soil leaving our farm on each acre each year? Can this be acceptable on the light that natural erosion, natural soil regeneration rates are at best 0.2 to 0.4 ton per acre in a year? The T-values, soil loss tolerance of acceptable erosion losses in the United States are, in my view, way too high if sustainable agriculture is to be achieved. The idea that something is wrong with tillage practice started here, the Dust Bowl 1930s. And it's very well explained in this book that is very recommended reading for everybody that is interested in this theme. And the book's name is called Dirt, the Erosion of Civilization. I do not know, I hope I do not get negative points of using the word dirt in this opportunity, but it's a recommended reading, really a very good book that everybody should read. But the lessons have not been learned. Here we have a dust storm over Griffith in Australia in the year 2002 on the left picture, and a recent dust storm in northwest China. It goes on. Wind erosion is still a reality in many parts of the world, as you see on these pictures. And also water erosion continues to degrade and destroy our soils. The root cause is conventional tillage agriculture. where we leave the soil bare and unprotected from the erosion force of the raindrops. So the main consequences of tillage in general are that we are causing erosion and a faster mineralization of organic matter. The USDA estimates that about half the fertilizer used each year in the US simply replaces soil nutrient lost by topsoil erosion. And this is the vicious cycle of soil degradation. We have bare soil because we do tillage. We have erosion, low organic matter content, low fertility, low yields, low biomass production, and then we have again bare soil, and the whole cycle continues again. But no tillage ends with this vicious cycle. If the three basic principles of no-tillage are applied. That means absence of tillage except for a very narrow slot where we put the seed in, and the system is carried out consistently from year to year. The second request is that we have a permanent soil, organic soil cover protecting the soil. And the third one, that we have an adequate diversification through rotation and cover crops. Corrupting the principles means not gaining all the benefits of the system. So we have to respect all those three principles. The benefits of no-tillage over conventional tillage described here are based on more than 5 years of continuous no-tillage application. If you are doing rotational tillage, 1 year no-tillage, the next year some type of tillage, then you are not really using a no-tillage system. No-tillage is a holistic system. It includes many factors which interact: equipment, crop rotation, cover crops, soil management, climate evaluation, residue management, variety selection, pest management, fertilization and lighting. And you can add some more. So you have to get all these factors managed properly and get them in line. And this reminder, I'm going to talk globally about no-tillage, but I'm going to refer a lot of times to my experience in Brazil and Paraguay, where I worked most part of my life. The agriculture is always site-specific, but the principles of farming are the same all over the world. So we are starting now with the effects of no-tillage on soil quality. And first, I would like to present to you a definition of no-tillage or zero-tillage, because this is very important. No-tillage is a conservation farming system in which the seeds are deposited into untilled soil that has retained the crop residues from the previous crop by opening a very narrow slot, trench or hole, only of sufficient width and depth to obtain proper seed coverage, and no other soil tillage is done. Permanent or continuous no-tillage is meant rather than not tilling in one season and tilling in the other, or occasionally not tilling the soil. And we have to keep this definition in mind, because a lot of people define no-tillage very differently. They say they are doing no-tillage because they are doing one-pass seeding. They're seeding to stubble, but a lot of soil preparation is being done while seeding, so the whole surface, or too much of the surface of the soil, is tilled, and we cannot call that no-tillage. This is what we understand, and if I'm talking about the benefits of the system, they are based on this definition. So here we have the influence of no-tillage on soil chemical properties, and you will notice that it's positive on organic matter, and I put a plus sign when it's positive. I will put a negative sign when it's negative. And it's positive on all chemical properties, on organic matter, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium and magnesium, pH. It reduces the aluminum saturation, which is positive, and increases the cation exchange capacity, which also is positive. So all our chemical properties of the soil are improved with the system. And this is a classical research from North Dakota Farm Research, Bauer and Black, back in 1983, they published this paper, where they showed the reduction in carbon content of the soil with the time of soil use. They start with 100% of organic matter when the soil is for the first time tilled in a prairie, for instance. In 20 years, organic matter content is reduced to 50% of its original value by tillage. In 60 years, it's reduced to 1/3 of the original value. And this cannot be sustainable because the degradation continues with time. We can revert this, starting to use no-tillage or continuing to use no-tillage. This is research done by Edwards in Washington, Ohio, where he shows a dramatic increase in the organic seed content of the soil and the surface layer. So we can revert the process of soil degradation by tillage, by turning over to the no-tillage technology. Also nitrogen suffers dramatic increases in the upper soil layer when we start using no-tillage. And this is a very interesting research by Warren Dick, presented by Warren Dick at the ISTRO conference 2006. It's the oldest no-tillage experiment in the United States and probably in the world. And it was started in 1962. Organic matter in this site over here, Hotware, was reduced all the time. It increased all the time in no-tillage. And this is a genuine no-till system with corn-soybean rotation. If we have in the same soil high organic matter content, we're going to have higher yields. And we have low content, are going to have lower yields. So they also started this experiment in Worcester. And again, here the differences are much more dramatic. The fall in organic matter, continuous fall of organic matter in conventional tillage, while a continuous increase in no-tillage. And this can be very well used for a sustainable system where organic matter is increased, an unsustainable system where organic matter decreases all the time. So again, we have higher yields when we have high organic matter in the same soil, and lower yields if we have low content of organic matter. In no-tillage, phosphorus values tend to concentrate on the soil surface. Why? Because we're applying the phosphate on the soil surface. Here, there are some people that tell you, well, if you concentrate the phosphorus on the soil surface, you have to till it down, mix it with the soil. Wrong. You do not need to mix this phosphorus in the soil, because in conventional tillage, you do not have any roots in the first 5 centimeters of the soil. While in no-tillage, the roots will develop under the straw on top of the soil, because the temperature allows the roots to grow in the soil, and they will find nutrients, and they will pick up the phosphorus and take it to the whole plant. So the phosphorus concentration on the in the top layer is not a problem in no-tillage. Lime, if you apply lime in no-tillage, there's a second cost that many people say you need to till the soil, even if you do no-tillage, to incorporate lime to mix it with the soil. You can do it with cover crops. Cover crops have organic acids that can transport this lime into the soil profile, so you do not need to till the soil to incorporate lime in the soil. Now we go to analyze the influence of no-tillage on soil physical properties. And we see that erosion and soil degradation is less in no-tillage, it's positive. Water infiltration increases, positive. We have lower soil temperatures, and it's with a positive sign and a negative. In the warmer season, or for us in South America, it's positive. It might be negative in your climate because of your climatic condition. Soil moisture increases in no-tillage, positive. Aggregate stability increases, making the soil more resistant to erosion. And also soil density increases, which may be negative or may be positive, depending on how you see it. Higher soil density gives you a better trafficability of the fields, so this is a positive thing. Sometimes it gives you a little bit of compaction, but that's not very bad. This is a study done in Paraguay. Erosion on extreme precipitation, and it's on a land that was 8% slope on 4,000 square meter plots, that's almost 1 acre. With precipitations on the 9th and 18th of June 1995, totaling 7.3 inches in only two rains. We have these rains quite often. In conventional tillage, we had 19 tons per acre soil loss with a big truckload of soil leaving the acre of land. While in no-tillage, we had only 0.1 ton per hectare, 0.04 ton per acre of soil loss. That means that conventional tillage had a 470 times bigger soil loss than no-tillage. And in practical farming, I see this occurring also. There are some studies, research done in different parts of the world that show you that differences are smaller, but my experience is that really with no-tillage, the differences are very great. The problem of soil degradation. You start, as we have seen before, with high yields in the beginning. Because of tillage, you have erosion and soil degradation. The yields start falling down until they get to the non-profitable line, and then, of course, you have to stop farming. The key problem of conventional agriculture is the steady decline in soil fertility, which is closely correlated with the duration of soil use. And this is very well shown in the Itaipu Dam, which is on the border between Paraguay and Brazil, where this study was made. They took samples of the lake, of the Itaipu Dam, with a hydroelectric power plant, and the diagonal lines show you the periods for soil preparation in this part of the world for wheat, March, April, May, and the period of soil preparation for soybean starting in August, September, October, November. And we have peaks of nitrates measured in the Itaipu Dam exactly in the period of soil preparation. What does it tell you? The sediments are going to the lake, and that's why we have high nitrate values in the system. The same happened with phosphorus, peaks exactly at the same time of soil preparation for both crops in the water of the Itaipu Dam. And of course, sediment follow the same line. Let's talk about water infiltration. The percentage of soil covered with plant residues is the overriding factor that influences water infiltration into the soil and reduces runoff and erosion. Looking in some of the older literature, you will find that some people say that you should plow or till the soil to increase water infiltration into the soil. Absolutely wrong. You will increase big pores, but you will not increase soil water infiltration. And these pictures made by USDA in the 40s gave us a better understanding of how the erosion process starts. Runoff and erosion start with a raindrop impact on the soil surface. We have to understand that very well. Soil splash seen on fence posts or on walls in a field or plot of bare soil is evidence of the force of large raindrops striking bare soil, and this is research done by Harold in 1962. Our friend Augustin, who is from Brazil and is present in this conference also, provided me these newer pictures of the raindrop impact on the soil, and it shows exactly the moment when the drop hits the ground. And consider this, Meyer and Mannering, two researchers from the United States, in 1967 reported that in 1 year, raindrops delivered to 1 acre of land an impact energy equivalent to 20 tons of dynamite. Imagine the energy that is delivered to 1 acre of soil equivalent to 20 tons of dynamite. And if you go with your naked body out into the rain, you will see that force hitting on you and you will feel it. The impact of falling raindrops disaggregates the soil into very fine particles which clog the pores and create a surface seal that impedes raindrop water infiltration, and this process takes on only about 10 minutes. Here we see the raindrop falling, splashing with its energy on the soil surface. The first surface sealing is building, and the water is running down the slope and taking soil with it when they have loose and bare soil. This happens when you have no soil cover. If you have soil cover, the soil cover will intercept this energy and it will not reach the soil surface. This graph shows you the water infiltration in a differentiated system. It was research done in Brazil. And interestingly, when you have 0% soil cover, by the way, 2.4 inch per hour rain was applied here artificially. With no soil cover, we have 75 to 80% runoff, no matter if you would use chisel tillage, conventional tillage, scissor plowing, or no tillage. The curves would follow the same pattern. If you would have 100% soil cover, there was no runoff. That means all the water infiltrates into the soil. So the secret of water infiltration is soil cover. And this is the same expressed in another way. Effects of soil coverage on soil erosion hazard. For wind erosion, the black line, and water erosion, the green line, showing that the relative hazard is very high if you have 0% soil cover, and it's 0 when you have 100% soil cover. And this is very well shown in Salina, Kansas at the conference where we are going with the group during this week, where they make a rainfall simulated demonstration. And this is done in 20 minutes, and everybody that has a chance to visit this simulator demonstration should see it because it's fantastic. Look at this. It shows you in a matter of 20 minutes that when you have 100% soil cover, to the left of the picture, you have very little runoff, and it's clear water, no soil in there. If you have 30% soil cover, which is considered to be more than 30%, conservation tillage, you have some dirt. It's allowed in this case because it's erosion in the glass, and it's muddy and more water. If you have 0% soil cover, the glass is full and full of sediment. If you have a pasture, even less water and even very clear water. So this is a very, very good demonstration that everybody that can afford should see. But the most interesting thing happens in the next step when they turn over these trays, and the tray in front that has no cover, the bare soil tray, the water infiltrated only 1 inch, so the first inch is wet and the bottom inch is dry. Can you believe that? If you don't believe it, go to Salina, see the demonstration, and then you'll see it. While in the back over here, we see the soil, the mulch-covered soil, it's wet from top to bottom. It's a very interesting demonstration. The drying of surface seeding results in soil crusting, which may hinder or impede the germination and emergence of crop seed. But this only happens if you don't have soil cover. You don't have any soil crusting in a no-tillage with 100% soil cover. Here is Seth Dabney from USDA taking a picture of soil crusting in no-tillage, but look where he's taking a picture. The only place where there is no residue. So that's what explains it. This is an interesting picture provided to me by Mr. Thomas in Switzerland, and shows the influence of tillage systems on water infiltration in practical field. On the left side, zero tillage, no tillage. On the right side, plow tillage. You see a little pond over here. This is because they have taken soil samples of it. But as a matter of fact, you can walk with your Sunday shoes without getting dirty on the no-tillage plot, while you need boots to walk in a tillage field. And this is very dramatic difference again. And you see this also when you apply rotations, that rotation influences this also. This slide shows you what we did in Paraguay, measuring soil temperatures for 24 hours at 1, 2.5, and 7 inches depth. And here's the result. Soil temperature in the cotton crop under bare soil on the left, and on a cover crop mulch to the right side. On the left, in a hot summer day, we got 131 degrees Fahrenheit on the surface of the on 1 inch soil depth. At 2.5 inch soil depth, we had for several hours temperatures very much above this level that would be the allowed level, we could say, because organisms cannot work above 40 degrees Celsius or 104 degrees Fahrenheit. And you see that even under 18 centimeters, 7-inch depth, the soil heats up to this temperature. While it's far from that temperature when the soil is completely covered with residues from a cover crop. So this, for warmer climates, it's very important and beneficial, but it's not always the case in colder climates. This also shows the soil temperature at 3 centimeters that is affected by tillage system, showing that in conventional tillage you have the highest temperature, in chisel plowing you have a medium level temperature, no tillage a lower one, and no tillage with ryegrass even lower temperature. This is again a slide provided by Dirceu Gasson, and who has the chance to interact with him should take the advantage. He is a very knowledgeable expert on no-tillage, going to be presenting in Salina. And he provided me with these slides showing on the left side bare soil exposed to the sun, reaching 165 degrees Fahrenheit, you can fry eggs on this soil. And the right, you just open the soil for taking the reading 102 degrees Fahrenheit. That means an acceptable soil temperature. Of course, in South or North Dakota, this is a slide provided by me by playing back. Perhaps the reduction in temperature is not something you're looking at, especially at seeding time. Soil moisture is something that you are looking for. Perhaps you're not looking so much about temperature, but you should be looking at moisture, because you are not in a very high rainfall pattern area. And here we see research done in Brazil showing you that in conventional tillage, in the upper soil layer, in the medium soil layer, and then also in deeper soil layer, we have the lowest soil moisture measurement in conventional tillage and always the highest in no-tillage. It means we keep the soil moist, we keep the moisture of the soil when we are using the no-tillage system. And this slide shows you the percent of water-stable aggregates in this soil in Brazil after 4 years of tillage management. And look at the huge difference that you find in aggregate stability. This is no-tillage. 70% of aggregates are stable, while in conventional tillage, you are destroying the aggregates with tillage. You have only about 5% of stable aggregates. In chisel plowing is a little bit better, but not much. So even in the depth of 20 to 30 centimeters, or 1 foot depth, you have more water stable aggregates in no-tillage than you have in conventional tillage. This slide shows the bulk density is affected by 7 years of tillage system. And you see that always in no-tillage you have a higher bulk density in the 3 depths mentioned before compared to conventional tillage. But as I said, this gives you a better trough capability of the field when you have a higher soil density level. So it does not necessarily need to mean something negative. And cover crops also influence soil density. Here we have the soil bulk density affected by 7 years of tillage system from 0 to 9 centimeters depth, about this depth. And in wheat soybean system, we have a relatively high bulk density, which we can reduce a lot by rotation that includes oats and veg, corn, wheat, and soybean, or wheat, soybean, and wheat, corn. So cover crops and rotation can also have a beneficial effect on soil density. And soil compaction. We use cover crops in South America to kill the soil biologically instead of with iron. Cover crops can have this effect. And when we have high diversity cover crop combinations, this effect are enhanced and increased. This slide shows you the aggregation restoration by cover crops. And it shows that when you have a bare soil, you have the worst situation, while if you include cover crops like ryegrass or lupin, you improve during, look at this, from 93 to 96, you are improving the aggregation of the soil continuously. And this shows again the same thing in other situations. This slide shows you an aggregate that has got a hole. Where does this hole come from? It's an earthworm that has made their hole. And if we have a higher soil density, but our soil is full of holes from the earthworm or roots that be grown in that place, we're not interested in that because the root will find their way into deeper soil layers. And agriculture often uses machines designed for road construction which compact the soil. Perhaps you don't see this picture too much around here because all your roads are done and are ready, but in South America we see this quite often. Road construction, and here we see the implement that farmers use to till the soil, to compact, to disaggregate the soil, compact it, and then put the asphalt on top of that road. So if you want to put asphalt on your farm, it's a good idea to use this implement. So let's analyze the influence of no-tillage on soil biology, and Joshua is going to tell me 10 minutes or 15 minutes before time how much time we've got. About 10 minutes, thank you. So let's analyze the influence of no-tillage on soil biology. We increase earthworms, and all the studies all over the world show you have more earthworms when you're in no-tillage, positive. We have more arthropods, that's positive. You have more nodules or legumes, that's positive. You have more mycorrhiza. It starts being present because in tillage agriculture you don't even have it. And you have a higher cellulose degradation that indicates also a higher microbiological activity. That's also positive. And here is our friend Nono Pereira. We were talking yesterday with Jay about him. This is him. And he is holding a shovel full of soil. And if you go to Washington, to the Smithsonian Institution, you will see this phrase. There are more living creatures in a shovel full of rich soil than human beings on the planet. Yet, more is known about the dark side of the moon than about soil. Isn't this very, very sad? Isn't this a very sad thing that we're sending space shuttles to the moon and to Mars? We're investing in studying the soil on the dark side of the moon, but we do not understand the soil on which we are standing and on which we are farming. We know a lot about soil chemistry, we know less about soil physics, and we know almost nothing about soil biology. But what we know is that the biology gets better in the no-tillage system because we have a living soil and we have organisms of all kinds working here, doing their job in the soil. Earthworms, insects, rodents are the most visible components of the living soil. And imagine now you come with an implement, a plow or a chisel, and destroy this beautiful building that all these animals have been building. And you destroy the vertical cores that roots have produced. Well, what a sad thing that you have this beautiful nature has provided us with this beautiful building, and here we go with tillage implement and destroy this building. So if you still have prairie land that has never been tilled and you are considering going into cropping, please do not till this beautiful soil. Just go directly into no-tillage, and the expert will tell you how to do that. Lumbricus terrestris, which is a kind of an earthworm, promoted in Switzerland in a research done there the reduction of fusarium biomass content and DON concentration in wheat straw. It then can be concluded, according to this study, that earthworms play an important role in plant pathogen repression and microtoxin degradation as ecosystem services, promoting soil health in urban fields under no-till. And that's what we want to have, soil health. This is what this workshop is all about. We have measured the earthworm populations in no-tillage compared to conventional tillage, and look at this. Conventional tillage in red, chisel plowing in blue, and no-tillage in yellow. It's a huge difference you can measure in no-tillage compared to conventional tillage practice. If you look at arthropods, It's a big difference in the arthropods you find in soybean wheat rotation compared to a soybean cover crop rotation. So cover crops is something we should consider also in our system. Mycorrhizas, the left picture, increase in no-tillage, and also rhizobia. You have more rhizobia going into the roots of the soybean, making biological nitrogen fixation in no-tillage than you have in conventional tillage. And this is shown in this slide over here, research done in Brazil. Number of nodules per plant in soybean in the 0 to 2 foot soil layer after 4 years of different tillage treatment. Conventional tillage, 64 nodules per plant, while we have 123 nodules per plant in no-tillage. So we end up this chapter with the conclusions, and it's concluded that compared to conventional tillage, no-tillage has positive effects on soil chemical, soil physical, and soil biological properties. We did not have a single real negative aspect in these 3 properties of the soil. And with this, I would like to end my presentation for the morning, and we are going to continue with the second part in the afternoon. Thank you.